My name is Karen Bolinger and I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Melbourne Convention Bureau. Welcome to the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre for the official Business Events Week Media Conference. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge Professor Ian Chubb, AC, Australia's Chief Scientist and the official Business Events Week Ambassador for 2014. I would also like to welcome Professor Paul Zimmert, AO, Director Emeritus at Baker IDI Heart and Diabetes Institute, and he was also Program Chair of the 22nd World Diabetes Congress, and he is a Club Melbourne Ambassador. And I would also like to welcome Sheriff Karanat, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Professional Convention Management Association, and of course you, members of the media. Well, today marks the start of Business Events Week 2014, which is now in its second year. So, what exactly is Business Events Week? Well, it's an opportunity for the business events industry to showcase the vital importance of what it is we do, and to highlight the contribution of the industry to Australia's wealth and prosperity, its value to the knowledge economy, innovation, new research, collaborations and trade opportunities, and its benefits, of course, to the tourism and hospitality sectors. But the business of business events is still relatively unknown to the wider community. Yet by 2020, the value of business events to the Australian economy will rise to 31 billion from 24 billion today. And this presents a strong argument for ongoing support and investment into the business events industry to ensure the sector remains a key economic driver. Evidence of the value of business events is demonstrated by Melbourne's Convention Delegate Study 2013. And this research was commissioned by the MCB, and it examines the conference delegate experience and the economic value driven from their attendance. It is the fourth edition of the study, and we collected more than 3,800 responses from delegates representing over 150 countries. These delegates attended over 5 conferences, or not over, but actually 5 conferences, and they represented a cross-section of industry sectors, and they were all held here at the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre between May and December 2013. The study measured travelling patterns, expenditure, and satisfaction with Melbourne as a conference destination. And 6 key findings came out of the 2013 study, which were: the international conference delegates spend over twice as much as a typical international leisure tourist. They travel with additional companions not attending the conference. They extend their trip to include travel to regional Victoria or other parts of Australia. And there has been a significant rise in the proportion of delegates travelling from Asia. The content or program of the event is the most important factor in the decision to attend a conference in Melbourne. And international delegates are planning to come back to Australia as a result of their conference experience. So let's take a look at the first point. International delegates are big spenders. They spend twice as much per trip as a typical international leisure tourist. And that makes business events one of the highest yielding sectors in Australia's visitor economy. They're spending more than $1,000 a day on accommodation, dining out, domestic air travel and other recreational activities in Melbourne. Much of this spend is delivering dollars straight into the state's small to medium businesses and delivering business into the tourism sector in traditionally off-peak periods. During the 22nd World Diabetes Congress in December, hotels such as Crown Metropole, Towers and Promenade and the Hilton Melbourne South Wharf were occupied by up to 50% with conference delegates. Normally in early December in Melbourne, the corporate market starts to quieten for hotels and there's no major events and the leisure tourist isn't necessarily in town either. So without the Congress, this business simply would not have existed for these hotels. Taking a look at our second finding, conference delegates are travelling with companions. These companions are husbands, wives, partners, family or friends, and they've got no association with the actual conference. They are instead out exploring Melbourne. They're dining in our restaurants and bars and they're visiting our attractions. And of course, they're shopping in our wonderful department stores and boutiques. Over a quarter of all international delegates were accompanied on their trip to Melbourne, and this equates to an additional 2,300 international visitors to the city from the survey conferences alone. This delivers a further boost to the economy. And not only are our dollars being spent within the city, conference delegates and their companions are travelling beyond Melbourne. They're extending their business trip to include leisure travel to regional Victoria and, of course, other parts of Australia. With Melbourne and Australia on the bucket list of so many international delegates attending the conference, provides the perfect opportunity to explore our country. And more than 50% of all international delegates extended their trip to include pre- or post-conference travel. The Great Ocean Road was the most popular destination in regional Victoria, and this was followed by Phillip Island. And outside of Victoria, Sydney was the #1 choice, followed by the Gold Coast. The next key finding indicated that there had been a significant rise in the number of delegates travelling from Asia. Asian delegates represented almost half the number of international delegates travelling to Melbourne for a conference. And this has increased by 11% from the 2010 study. And China and India, of course, were the highest source markets from this region. The proportion of Indian delegates tripled from 2010 to 2013, and the Chinese delegate numbers all nearly doubled in the very same period. And this growth can be attributed to the strengthening of their economies across a variety of industries and a subsequent increase in affluent middle-class citizens. They also have a thirst for knowledge. They want the opportunity to be educated and have the desire to collaborate with their international peers. Many companies in India are also incentivising their clients with overseas trips. Pharmaceutical companies, for example, will bring doctors to Melbourne for a medical conference and add-on incentive activities. In addition, Melbourne is more accessible than ever, and new direct flights from both China and India will support this. And of course, Tourism Australia and Tourism Victoria have invested significantly into these countries, and it's raised the profile and appeal of Melbourne. Another key finding aligned with current business events trends was that the main reason for attending a conference in Melbourne was because of the educational value of the program content. Melbourne is Australia's knowledge centre, enabling conference organisers to draw content and speakers from our rich pool of local researchers and academics to drive delegate attendance. In May last year, Melbourne was the host city for the 25th International Council of Nurses Quadrennial Congress. And the top 2 reasons why delegates attended the conference was because of the quality of the content and the relevance of the information presented. Part of the program included professional site visits to Melbourne's leading medical institutes, such as the new Olivia Newton-John Cancer and Wellness Centre. And the site visits all reached capacity because the delegates were exposed to new innovative healthcare practices in Australia, and this provided them with a valuable education and development opportunity. And our final finding to present today is that business events play a key role in attracting visitors to Australia. More than 70% of international delegates had actually never visited our country prior to attending a conference in Melbourne. But after experiencing Melbourne as a business events destination, almost all international delegates would recommend it as a place to visit to their family and colleagues. And more than 3/4 intend on returning for a holiday. These findings of Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Study 2013 demonstrate the significant economic and knowledge value of conferences. This presents a strong business case to both local and state government and other stakeholders to continue to support and invest in the industry. The value of major international conferences is often overshadowed in the media by consumer-focused, sexier events such as the Australian Open and the Australian Grand Prix. Yet they provide the same, but if not, more economic benefit to the state. And while international conferences may not be sexy, they're critical in progressing the variety of industries and fostering innovation. And I hope today that through this presentation and those of our remaining speakers, we will provide you with compelling reasons to recognise the importance of our sector. I would now like to invite our second speaker to the lectern this morning, Professor Ian Chubb, Australia's Chief Scientist and the Ambassador for Business Events Week.